Here we go. Oh, shit. GFW radio. Listen to our podcast. Yo, yo. Ryan Scott, he is a man. I quit this joint. That was my plan.
Not as anyone who would have any insider knowledge. But there's many millions of people subscribing to this game, and that's the only game they play or care about, a lot of them. And so for them to have their own dedicated magazine in which they could talk about, super hardcore geeky stuff, guild runs, whatever, raids, I think it makes total sense. I remember when I saw the Craigslist posting for editor-in-chief of World of Warcraft magazine, and I said to my wife, this is my job. That's me, man. But, I think it's not quite, I don't think it's a diss on this magazine, which I haven't seen at all, and I know people who are on the staff who are really great editors. It's not really journalism, right? This is like a company magazine, essentially. But that doesn't mean that it can't be a good one. It could be a great one. So I think it was a smart idea for Blizzard to do that, personally.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian from San Francisco. And for Robert Ashley, I was wondering, I really love your podcast. When are the other two posters going to be available for me to buy immediately?
So the plan right now is for the second one to go up with the 5th episode and the third one to go up with the 6th episode. And I guess I made the mistake of the 2 that everyone want are the 2 that aren't for sale. So, but you guys should buy the other 2 because I got bills to pay.
Will that make it faster? Will you get the episode out sooner if I buy them? Because I'll totally do that.
By buying the posters, you're incentivizing me to make the show because here I have this thing where I'm only making 200 of them, and if I make money off of those things and I want to make more money, I have to make another show, right? So the posters incentivize me to make the show. So yes, buy many of them.
Tonight we're on the poster racket. I want to say I know some people are leaving, so we're running so far over. But
Right.
Bill Madron went through the pains to make this wonderful poster, and they're selling these. What I understand, at the back of this room for a couple dollars. So if anyone's interested, just get that out there. And thanks to Bill.
And by the way, the
Fantastic
$2, I think it only covers. Aaron, tell me if I got this right. It only goes towards the printing cost, and every dime over the printing cost is actually again going to Child's Play.
Right, no profit on this one.
No profit.
Hey Jeff, I have kids, so I'll buy your game.
Thank you. I like it.
A previous questioner asked, brought up the World of Warcraft. It's quarterly, and I was wondering if anybody at your magazine ever did the numbers on what a quality, because I like print, what a quality magazine would cost a consumer to buy on a quarterly basis. Doesn't necessarily have to have the latest and greatest headlines, but just quality writing about video games.
You mean did Ziff Davis ever consider that, or did we? Or?
Yeah.
I think he's
Ziff
asking also
Davis.
the price of the. You also asking how much you'd have
much-
to charge a subscriber.
Right. How much would I have to pay for something like that? And
How much are you willing to pay?
It's been discussed.
World of Warcraft's like $15 at a magazine or something like that. So.
Honestly, I don't mean to jump in, but I'm also a huge print lover, and I really do think that there's still room out there for a small run magazine that caters to a loyal fan base that costs a good bit of money. I don't know how much because I am stuck at math, but my wife is good at math, and she also seems to agree, and we talk about that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah, in the post trauma we went when they closed down the magazine, there were a number of talks going on about the idea of forming. Remember this? Remember when we talked about this?
Yeah,
We
that's
sat in
what
my
I was
office. We talked about the idea of having like a small-run boutique gaming magazine, something like Edge, which does a great job in the UK, but where we could charge a premium, so it would be higher price, but the paper quality would be awesome, the quality of the art would be awesome, and by having a smaller run and a higher price, basically we're like acknowledging it's not going to be 300,000 readers a month. It might be 10,000, but that 10,000 can cover the cost, and those 10,000 people who still like print would be satisfied. Why didn't we do that? Oh, no one would pay.
10,000 people willing to pay.
No, we can never.
Dollars for a magazine.
We're lazy. I think that's what happened.
Also, it doesn't seem like a lot of people with money are really into wanting to throw money at starting a magazine nowadays. Funny thing. Not a big investment opportunity.
Well, A Life Well Wasted is fantastic. Have you shopped it to This American Life or anything like that?
No. I did like a silly sort of fanboy email Jad Abumrad from Radio Lab, which is my favorite radio show, to try to get him to listen to it, and he hasn't listened yet. But guys, I think he's going to.
Fingers crossed.
I emailed him the new one too. So.
This question is more for Jeff. Couple of days ago, me and my friends were just talking and thinking about how when we were first growing up, and our mom and dads, we knew them as parents at first, right? And it's not only until the later years you start knowing them as adults and knowing how they really are and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering, how would you react, or how would you handle the situation if you found out that your daughter had been listening to GFW and all the other podcasts you've been on?
Oh, God.
Tonight.
Well, now she's 15, and I've been to her Facebook page because she friended me, which was kind of dumb of her. So I've seen the way she and her friends talk to each other, and I was horrified until I remembered what I was like in high school, and then remembered, oh yeah, of course they know all those words. I think the thing that actually shocked me more than any of the actual profanity was she said something to one of her friends like, God, I really can't let her listen to this tonight now. It's something like, I'll always be your hoe and you'll always be my slut bitch. This is to one of her girlfriends. I was like, what the fuck? This kid is grounded. So now that she's 15, I think she could listen to anything at this point. You're in high school, you know what's going on. But I feel bad now.
So you're cool with your daughter listening to you read posts from a website about anime fans who like to shit and masturbate?
She learned it from watching you.
I'm going to hell. Yeah. No, I think actually she would feel really awful listening to me. I think I'm okay with her listening to her. I think she'd turn it off in 5 minutes and go, Dad! So, yeah.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, first of all, your banner fell down.
9 times.
That's an omen.
Gravity.
Let it,
Yeah,
let
was
it
hanging
die.
out for a while there. I know all of you guys have had years of writing reviews for games and just commenting on games in general. I know I've been reading Greenspeak since before I was in high school. I was wondering if you had, all of you together, or maybe just each one of you, if you had one particular bad game, the bad game that stood out somehow.
Oh yeah. I'll just go. I had to play through 50 Cent Bulletproof. This is for EGM, and EGM had a very strict you need to finish the game policy. And I remember the week that I had to play that game, and I spent 3 days sitting in my living room, infuriated playing through it. And my wife would actually leave the house after a couple of hours. She would get so upset at me screaming and throwing stuff and drinking.
Just earlier today in the hotel, though, we were sort of laughing at the notion of the exhaustion of a games journalist. What a coddled, life you live when just like, oh God, you'll get tweets. I'm just so exhausted. Not to say you don't put in a lot of work, but
But you would
Jeff, why don't you tell them about exhaustion in an EA studio?
Yeah, they work really hard there.
But then you talk to your journalist friends at a show, and you'll be like, oh man, how's PAX going? And I'll be like, oh man, I'm so tired. I had an appointment at 10 in the morning. I had to play this game, man. I gotta go get some drinks later. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, at Ziff, at the office, for like a good year, there was this building being built right outside of my office window. And we used to have meetings in my office. You look down and you see these construction workers working all day, and we used to just always say, like, Jesus Christ, those guys are out there working. What the fuck are we doing?
And it was so, because the building was being like erected like every day, just seeing just this monumental thing coming into shape, and instead we had just like some stacks of shitty magazines. So like, yeah, I mean, we felt like these guys are doing something, like, 50 years from now, their legacy is going to be there, even though no one will associate any individual with it. Our magazines are going to be lined in fucking guinea pig cages.
So any games, though? This question, any games that stick out?
That's a really good question. For me, the games that I always hated the most and that made me angry weren't, the shitty shovelware that we really tried not to review. I mean, if they were from, like, little companies that this might be one of their only reviews, like, we tried to just say, like, you don't actually want us to review this. So it wasn't it was more like the big games that let me down were the ones that pissed me off the most. And the one I guess that stands out the most to me is Ultima 9, which was just like not done, and I mean, that was it's no big deal really, but at the time, especially because this was like pre-patching, and I felt so betrayed at the time that game was so unfinished that I couldn't stand it, and I actually wrote a GreenSpeak about it on top of the review because I was so pissed off. I wrote a open letter to Lord British, and found out soon after that I was actually physically banned from Origin's building for a while, which made me really proud.
John?
I've told my story many times, so I'll let, if anyone else does want to go ahead.
I'm thinking, Ryan.
Did I ever tell the story about the PR guy that actually physically threatened me?
Oh my God, that was great.
That was pretty awesome. A few years back, I think I reviewed these in the first issue of GFW, but Vivendi did all these compilations of all the old Sierra games, all the old adventure games, from the 80s and 90s, and they were really like just these half-assed like things that they just put these things in a box. They ran on DOSBox. They weren't even really upgraded to run on modern systems. They didn't come with manuals. It was like on the system requirements on the box. It was like system requirement printer, and there was just a little card in the box that said please see the disc and print the manual. It was just like the worst thing ever. All the screenshots on the back of the boxes were from like the first screens of each game. It was terrible. And I wrote like some scathing thing on my blog. And the PR guy who was responsible for, representing those games at Vivendi, called Darren for some reason and left this hateful message on his answering machine about how he would, if he saw me at whatever event, the GDC next week, he was gonna like kick my ass, and and this individual was just kind of a notorious scumbag, anyway, and I thought it was funny. But our editorial director didn't think it was so funny, and he forwarded it to our HR department, and like they got in contact with him and made him apologize. It was pretty cool.
Those apologies were awesome. He actually had to come to our office, and then he had to sit down in my office. It was like being in the principal's office. It was fucking great.
So yeah. Hate that guy.
I do too still, yeah.
So here's my story.
I got nothing. I mean, I was really good at, I think, dodging the bad ones because I would kind of sit quietly back when they came up when we were assigning them.
Well, you were managing editors.
So I kind of had an out, so I don't know. I got a lot of mediocre ones with those.
Well, everybody
ones.
on staff got the cherry pick.
What's that?
Everybody on staff got the cherry pick.
The reason I didn't get any bad ones is because like the freelancers got those.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
So, and then I would get mediocre ones, and those ones I often wish would be bad, so I could like rant about them, but all I could do was just write, which isn't as fun to write. But I don't know. Sorry, that was boring.
Well, the worst games to review are like not the really good ones or the really bad ones, but just you know, those like
Yeah, the
3
mid-range.
stars out of 5. It's like, yeah, this exists. Not really. This is a game that is sort of fun.
If you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Those are always the worst.
Those are always
right?
fans of the genre of these too. they are?
Yep. Fans of the genre should enjoy this.
Rent it, I guess.
2.5 out of 5. Sean Elliott.
Don't put my name on that shit. I did that.
Yeah, thanks very much. I had one other small question. Are we going to see you guys back here next year?
Is there going to be a next year?
Like,
Yes.
in terms of the world?
Yeah.
I want to do something at PAX Boston, and I'm glad that the Penny Arcade's bringing it out our way now that I live down the street. So maybe I'll just be roaming around.
You should just open up like a whiskey nerd booth.
Yeah,
Just like dispense your wisdom.
That'll be sad. I'll just sit there and tweet about like why you should come check me out.
Good idea.
If we do anything, it'll require Aaron to email us because we wouldn't have been here
Yeah,
without him.
again, like I wanted to like not just to be nice, but this wouldn't have happened without Aaron. He had all the initiative that none of us had, and just basically made it. I'm thinking we've been here for a long time. We should probably just like lock in.
We
with-
should. We got at least one more person back there.
Yeah, we should.
Behind me, Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey guys, my name's Will. I'm from the UK, and so obviously I've never read CGW or GFW, but I realized recently that I've been getting most of my gaming news from American sites and podcasts and blogs, and it's great. I mean, it's the best because it's the best source, but I realized there's so much American focus on all these podcasts. So I'll be listening to something from One Up, and halfway through they'll talk about a GameStop pre-order bonus or the NPDs or something that completely, not necessarily alienates me, but is alien to me. And since the internet is a global platform, I was wondering whether you thought it was worth, or not necessarily worthwhile, but whether focusing so much on the continent or the country where a magazine or a site is based is limiting, or whether it's worthwhile to expand in that regard.
It's kind of. I will say quickly. I mean, of course, there are a number of podcasts, run from other countries in UK and elsewhere. And by all means, I'd encourage people to listen to those for the full, the breadth that they might be looking for. But it's a good point too. I know we had a huge portion of our audience were Scandinavian, and they'd write us, and we absolutely loved that. And yeah, somehow we just spoke to what we were comfortable with and assumed that it must have been working along some lines. But yeah, it's an interesting point, especially as worldwide. You can't deny the fact that other markets, emerging markets, it's a huge chunk of the pie in the end.
Well, a lot of it really was a matter of resources too, unfortunately. I mean, certainly as PC gamers, as a lot of the Eastern European markets were like really making some great games, we always talked in the editorial office about how wouldn't it be great if we could send someone over there to do that, or even have a correspondent who would regularly cover that territory. But it was just a practical, reality. It was like
Correspondent to cover the GFW. Where we opened the branch office in Dublin.
Well, right at the end we were talking about that.
This is why it never happened, because he would always shoot the shit down.
Also, I don't know. I just think, luckily, as an American, people are okay with you taking an American-centric view in the world. They just expect it. Like, oh, he's an American. He always thinks everything's American. So.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm Gareth from Vancouver, and I have a question for Sean actually, and it's about BioShock. And I want to know, when the game first came out, you guys discussed at length the themes in the game, how it was sort of like a critique or a parody of Ayn Rand, objectivism, that sort of thing. I'd like to know, if you know, at what point did it stop being a shooter and become a parody of Ayn Rand?
Yeah, You mean like
Level 3?
insofar as the Steam? it's kind of a complicated question because for one, it's asking me to say that it stopped being a shooter. I mean, it could be both at the same time, right? It can explore the themes that it explored and still offer.
Did Ken Levine originally set out to do that, or was that something that came later on in the process?
Yeah, I can't. Here's what I'll do. I'll obfuscate and be the corporate man here. I can't speak for Ken, but I will say if you pay attention to our studio, we might have some interesting venues for you to have answers to those kind of questions, but hopefully a lot more interesting stuff than have been the games that we made. So.
Thanks.
We could probably make this the last question. Don't you think?
Oh yeah, certainly. Okay.
You get the last question.
Shit.
It better be good.
The other guy's name was like Jazz English?
Yeah, Jazz.
That's like the
Yes.
coolest name. My name is Joe No.
Joe No. Joe knows Jazz English.
But okay, funny. Here at PAX, and I've also been to I've been to E3 before, but at each event that I've been to, there's these huge booths by these South Korean MMO companies like Nexon and like I don't know, companies that are kind of no-name companies here in the U.S. and they seem to be churning out MMO after MMO. How do you guys feel about those? Do you even care? Because I'm Korean myself. I don't really care.
I play all of them, and I buy all the upgrades. I buy all the cool clothes, and I have a boyfriend in a lot of the games. And I'll buy any virtual item with a heart on it.
Tell me something about Dungeon Fighter Online.
I just like to fight in Dungeon. Online. I do love it when I see a game with the subtitle online, as if that's a novelty now. I would think that like offline would be the bigger novelty. It'd be like, wow, that's a game with no online component. That's amazing.
Is that our ending point?
Yeah.
That's your final note, Jeff. What's your take on Korean MMOs? These are your last words.
I have no take on that. I just keep marveling at the Dofus booth. That was like the greatest name of all time. I don't even know what that is. Every time I see it, I just laugh.
It's like a misspelling of doofus.
I just like the name Dofus. I want to play that. That's all I got.
Excellent.
So let's say our goodbyes then.
I think we're done. I want to thank all of you for waiting in line, for sitting through this drivel, and for all the questions, and for hanging out this long. It means a lot to all of us that you guys came. Thanks also again to Aaron for organizing it, to David Ellis over there for filming it.
I was just thinking this now, we never talked about it, but the whole dynamic we had when we taped the podcast, and this is why I'm thanking everyone for coming here and for listening to it, especially those that that supported us over the years, is that we always felt like the underdogs, and that gave us kind of the incentive we needed to do anytime I'd come up with some random skit or something in the beginning, that was all a matter of saying, this website is already determined that they have this flagship podcast, and everything else beside that is just bullshit, and it was basically going to be us like clawing and scratching our way into any kind of limelight that we had. And the fact that we had listeners that would go and post on NeoGAF and other forums and just say like, hey, this is worth listening to, ultimately gave us the fan base that we had, because people see that week after week, and it doesn't happen immediately, it just gets to the point where every week in and week out that those threads are on there, and then people jump in and then they give it a try, and then they end up evangelizing to other people. So yeah, this long-winded way to saying thanks again to everyone.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before on the podcast, but we really got dragged into podcasting. We didn't want to do it, as if David's like, podcasting's a new thing. You guys gotta have a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. You need a podcast. So we
said it just like that.
Just like that. That was my John Davison imitation. I'm just kidding. I love John.
I remember Sean always trying to get me to come on and be like, dude, you got to come on our podcast. I promise it's cool. I'm like,
You and my secret
Those
weapons.
things are
man.
so fucking lame.
Right, well, we sat there with the mics on. I think if you go back in the archive and listen to the first ones, I mean, we're all just like, oh, God. Do we really have to do this? And we couldn't wait to get out of the room, really. And also there was like a little bit of like resentment, like, oh, great, they're making us do more work. Like that was hard work. We have to sit in a room and tell shit jokes for an hour. What jerks those guys are.
Well, we didn't even swear at first.
No, we didn't. We had a no swearing rule, right? What happened to that? We lost that. But, yeah. But, right, it just grew organic. Like, when the gaff threads started showing up and people, like, were into it, it really did.
And it took just a few people to even make you feel that it was worthwhile, even if it wasn't. So that at that point you become invested in it. You're like, all right, I gotta like prevent these people from seeming like fucking idiots and like do something that is decent because they said it was decent, you know.
And you're right that the underdog status definitely. I think it's something innate in a few of our personalities, at least on this panel, that being their redheaded stepchild definitely like made us want to.
We had beef at times when we would make these packs that neither of us would join one of yours. And we both sat there and we, for whatever reason, like just stupid misplaced arrogance, we were like, they're gonna come to us at some point.
And they never did.
And apologies to them because like one of yours is fantastic and everyone on it, like David Ellis right here is part of that show. But at the time, just the positions we were in, it was just feeling like, God damn, what's it going to take for like them to like even care about
right,
us?
Because that's right. Because when
when you went on there at first, I was bummed.
You were so mad at me.
Well, no more GFW. I ain't on that shit no more. Just doing a classic.
Right.
Like, bitch
Yeah,
maneuver.
Sean, you totally he had this like mopey baby like day.
Yeah.
I'm not being on anymore because Jeff was on one of yours. I know he's going to be the fourth chair now.
Totally do that.
You totally did that.
It was. It was bad because I was like, it was like the high school band, and then you started to play with a bigger band. And I was like, no, we were going to make it. We were going to make it out of this fucking shitty garage.
And then I felt bad when you went on one of yours. I was like, oh, great, Sean. Yeah, I committed to the band. Now you're going to do it.
And then you came back up. And then I would ask you for your permission. Is it cool? Are you sure? Do you want me to do this?
But yeah.
So when did you guys make out?
Constantly. Anyway, that's enough of that, huh? But thank you again all for coming. This has been great. We're happy that we got the opportunity to reunite. So thanks. Yeah.